slide. Backward. Okay. Will it irritate you, Safad? I don't want to upset Safad because I upset him all the time. It's part of my, relationship with him is to get him upset. And he sits usually behind me in the office, and I can see him from the back of my head when he's upset, having teased him for hours. Anyway, to the city, the tree of knowledge, and how the idea, the combination of the diagram coincide with also the structure and the circulation of the building. So in a kind of compressed volume, which is a very long city block, next, the idea of the paths, which is kind of this series of crevices and paths across the building where the light comes through. You enter each of these valleys, which are the kind of stacks and the library. Next. So the diagram, which becomes circulation, structure, and paths, becomes one single diagram. Next, please. Next. And the section how these things are made. Next. Next. Studies of how the idea of the contours, which are compressed within the building. Next. The idea of the contours generally. And then these are all kind of wrapped within these valleys. Next. And the valleys can become, these libraries are on top of the building. So you circulate on the ground is empty, they're free, and it becomes a kind of a civic zone. And as you move up, these kind of carved spaces emerge as the different libraries. There are 3, 4 libraries. What's that? As it's dressed within the whole space of this long city. The Zaragoza Bridge, another kind of bundle of spaces. Next. Which is kind of lands structurally in one point in the river. It is for the Expo 2008 in Zaragoza, which is the kind of the theme is ecology and water. So that during the Expo it will operate as an exhibition space. After the Expo it could have a different kind of really public domain, or maybe restaurants and also exhibition spaces. When they overlap. Next. Next. So it shows the 2 versions. The space was enclosed for the Expo, opened up for the post-Expo. No? And this is as the bridge being installed. It's already, half it is on site. The quality of the interior and some of the installation done by different artists. Again, the steel structure of the bridge being kind of also put together. Fields, 2 different kind of fields, or different kind of fields altogether, showing the field which is in the top left is the field of alignment where we could have a drawing done over 20 years ago of how to infiltrate the whole cityscape as kind of a public, also and private domain of the top floors. The field as in the dividing line in the Strasbourg car park and tram station, where the idea of graphic display of space could be applied to actually a project. The Zaragoza, the Bilbao master plan, which is another very large kind of segment of the city. Also this idea of distortion of the space and also the blocks across the whole field of this island, Zaragoza, and various projects where maybe partly in Istanbul, other projects of kind of the point towers. Next. This is a study for the Olympic housing done in 4 years ago when New York was applying for the bid for the Olympics 2012. How these towers kind of land on the ground, and the issue is it's on the water side, so we have to think about how to really not overdo the issue of excavation, that instead of landing in most of our product where the connection between the ground and above ground in the towers is kind of where the skirt appears. In this case, the idea that you land like a pencil on the ground, and that creates a kind of a dip, but the dip is an artificial ground. So these are the towers landing on on the side. So the ground remains the same, but we put another layer over it to create a space for the athletes during the Olympics where they can dine and exercise. And post-Olympics it becomes partly parking and also partly creches, schools around each of these towers as they land on the ground. So in this case, the ground becomes a kind of second ground, and the actual ground remains under this kind of topography. And you land in the most minimum way to allow outdoor facilities and gardens and park. And also the placement of these towers is allows a transparency to the side, so you can see through all the way to Manhattan. So they are placed in a strategic way. And also this kind of allows you to also use that idea maybe to also land and also where there's already like existing infrastructure or housing which can be combined with these towers. So as you go around, it's a Long Island and opposite the United Nations. That is seen from the house. So you're just going to be showing these kind of dips. Let's move through that very quickly. It shows you different views, and these are different layers post-Olympic for the use of the kind of community, let's put it that way. With the kind of paths and park. So it's basically combining the ground and the kind of interior urban space under the landscape, and above becomes a park where these towers land, and they land in these dips which become public spaces. The other field is the Museum of Contemporary Art in Rome. Next. I've shown this maybe before here, where the site is an L shape with the white. The whole area was built kind of as a factory in 1904, and then it became barracks and a police station. And our site was given to us as a barrack, and then the decision was to kind of either keep the sheds or eliminate them. We decided to eliminate them. We kept certain buildings. So various early studies about how we can deal with a site like that, where it is striated and parallel to the main street. Of course, the most important thing is to create a space which gives the Contemporary Art Center a variety of exhibits and also freedom to create different shows. The other very important issue for that project was it's not one single, to move away from the single building as an object and to create a field where it becomes a campus for a variety of activity. It's the library, the Heritage Center, the Museum of Contemporary Art. By tracing kind of certain shifts on the side, we discovered there was one diagonal which starts from the outside, and as that line began to infiltrate onto the inside, the changing of really the morphology of the site for us was therefore they no longer fortified and create a completely different organization. Next thing, early studies about how this confluence of lines can create these very different spaces. Next, and how as they lay over each other. It's not one single layer, it's maybe 2-3 layers, like a new archaeology imposed on the side, creating spaces for Rome, which becomes piazzas and so on. The site, again, it's an L shape, and the idea that this campus